Welcome to Client Counseling Psychology. This is Christian Leadership Institute of Minnesota and beyond. I am delighted to have you in this class for this semester, and this course is deliberately designed to conform to the problem-based learning. We are using the problem-based learning mode of delivery, a learning and teaching approach which we have recently adopted and provides learners with opportunities to identify solutions to structured real-world problems. We shall all be learning to learn, so let us commit to be available and to support one another in the learning process. And I'm looking forward to a meaningful interaction throughout this course. So what are our expectations as learners? The expectation or expected learning outcomes. At the end of this course, the learner should be able to evaluate the essential counseling skills, describe the various stages of counseling, identify personal characteristics that enhance effectiveness as a counselor, and apply basic counseling skills in their work with clients. And then they will also be expected to create clients' records. So we are expected to create personal records at the end of this course. So I want us very quickly to go to the introduction. And in this introduction, we are beginning with basic counseling skills. And in this process, we have the expected outcomes in the introduction to counseling, that by the end of this session, you should be able to define what counseling is, differentiate counseling from other helping activities, and understand what is not counseling. Because there are many things that are being done, others are advices, others are personal opinions, and they don't end up to be counseling. And the time somebody is taken to be, maybe their character has been seen as wayward, and they are taken to a group of people or elders, like a coach, and people are expecting that they have gone to a counseling. So we want to begin by defining what counseling is. The definition. There are so many definitions that we are going to define or to look into, but then at the end of it, you'll be able to we'll find one that is most simple and appropriate and understandable. So counseling is a complex helping relationship or interaction. It's a complex helping relationship or interaction between a professional referred to as counselor and the person seeking help referred to as the client. We are saying that it is a complex helping relationship or interaction between a professional referred to as the counselor and the person seeking help referred to as the client, and it's complex because of the following. It is a process because it is not a single event, but it involves a sequence of actions and practices progressing towards a goal. It's a process because it's not a single event, but it involves a sequence of actions and practices progressing towards a goal. This means that when a client comes to a counselor, there are processes that you go through with the client until that time when the client will feel that the goal has been achieved. So there is a goal that you aimed at. It has purpose and it takes commitment to achieve the goal. So there is the commitment that the counselor and the client commit themselves in order for them to be geared towards the goal that they have. It involves the counselor giving time, therefore it has a plan and a time frame. It is not that somebody just come to counseling and you talk to them and you tell them go. No, there's that time that you need to give that client, and therefore there is a plan that you make together, and there is a time frame, and it has a contract, and it is consistent. It is a relationship because, remember, in our definition, we say that it is a complex helping relationship or interaction. So it is a relationship because it has two people working together, but at least one of the parties or a counselor has the intent of promoting growth, development, maturity, and improved functioning of the other. This is according to one of the fathers of psychology called Carl Rogers. It has two people working together, but at least one of them or one of the parties, who is a counselor, who is the professional, has the intent of promoting growth, development, maturity, and improved functioning of the other. It has a focus on the problems of the person who is being helped or the client, which helps them to examine their concerns objectively. In some other definitions, we say that counseling is the skilled and principled use of relationships. You may find that it's almost equal or less the same. It's the skilled and principled use of relationships which develop self-knowledge, acceptance, and growth in personal resources. It's the skilled and principled use of relationships which develop self-knowledge, acceptance, and growth in personal resources. This overall aim is to live more fully and satisfying. So counseling may be concerned with addressing and resolving specific problems, making decisions, coping with crises, or working through feelings and inner conflicts, and improving relationships with others. We may also say that counseling is a way of relating and responding to another person so that the person is helped to explore his or her thoughts. Counseling is a way of relating and responding to another person so that the person is helped to explore her thoughts, feelings, and behavior so as to reach a clearer self-understanding, and then is helped to find and use his or her strength so that he or she copes more effectively with life by making appropriate decisions or taking relevant actions. So this is according to Inskip and John, 1984, if you get to that manual. We may also say that counseling is helping people of all ages in a variety of settings. It's helping people of all ages in a variety of settings to cope constructively with businesses of being human. Helping people of all ages in a variety of settings to cope constructively with business of being human. 3 dimensions of human existence with which counselors can be of a particular assistance are work, relationship, and aloneness. Each human being at every development stage in his life must somehow come to grip with these 3 dimensions of existence, which at different development stages present different developmental tasks and makes different demands upon the individual. According to Susan, Guillermo, 1973. We may also say that counseling is a helping process that uses safety. Is a helping process that uses safety endangered by a special kind of relationship. Is a helping process that uses safety endangered by a special kind of relationship to help to get access to a greater part of their personal resources as a means of responding to the challenges of their life. It uses specific skills and techniques in that relationship to help people become more competent. So more competent, more contented, and more creative. There are skills that are being used in counseling to help the client to be more contented and more creative. It does not primarily deal with mentally ill, but with normal individuals facing all the difficulties involved in domestic, work-oriented, and social life. So many of the times that we have been thinking that a counseling or a counselor or a psychologist deals so much with people who have mental issues, but it is more or less a process or a practice that is being used by two people, that you take people through, those who are facing certain challenges in their lives. Maybe it could be domestic, work-related issues, and social life. It is about helping people grow in emotional wellness and health. So the following interfaces can be made from the aforesaid definitions that counseling entails. We talked of relationships, process, and specific skills. So on the other hand, because there is a place where we say that counseling involves guiding a person, I want to ask ourselves, what is guidance? Guidance is giving directions to somebody. And this is not one of the goals in counseling. In counseling, you don't guide, you don't give directions. Guidance rests on the helper using his or her expertise to identify and direct people towards realistic options, rather than helping the recipients to discriminate for themselves what they perceive as realistic or not. So, point to note here. Guidance has its place in counseling when there is sharing information, educating clients on some pertinent issues, etc. However, permission must be sought from the client, because guidance, at times you may think that you are guiding the client, but it is not up to them, to what they can do. So I want us to look at definitions of other helping activities. An advice, on the other hand, advice is an opinion given or offered as to future action. When given repeatedly, it can create dependency. We are encouraged at counseling that we don't give personal advices, because if you give an advice to the client and it works, every time the client faces a similar problem or challenge, he will come to the counselor again, expecting the counselor to give an advice. So they will not depend on themselves, but they will develop dependency on the counselor. And if you give them an advice that it doesn't work, then the client will not recognize counseling at all, and the client will go on saying that I was deceived, and they will develop a dislike to counseling. So, however, the aim of counseling is to enable clients to become autonomous by discovering their own wisdom, rather than have wisdom imparted on them by the counselor. Counseling is client-led, where you give the client an autonomy to decide for themselves what is good for them and what is not good for them. So what is not counseling? It is not people exchanging information and opinions. Counseling is not a discussion, and counseling is not preaching. Counseling is not sharing prayer points. Counseling is not an interrogation where you sit down with somebody and you interrogate them. The client is not being questioned to find out the truth. And counseling is not, as we said, is not a confession. It is not being morally evaluated, pardoned, or absolved by the counselor. Counseling is not a diagnosis. No label of the problem is being searched for. Counseling, as we have said, is not giving advice. The counselor does not tell the client what he should do. And counseling is not influencing attitudes, beliefs, or behaviors. The client is not persuaded, compelled, or threatened to change his attitude to those of the counselor. So that is very important to note, that you don't direct the client on what to do. So to understand the diversity of contemporary counseling and to appreciate the significance of current patterns of practice, it is necessary to look at other helping activities in relation to counseling to give it weight it deserves. To separate counseling from other activities, we need to define the following words. Information giving. Information giving is the act of providing already existing facts. And this is the giving of skills, knowledge, facts, and attitudes. Information giving and advising may be more prominent in the workers' interventions than will be in the case of counseling. When you are in a group of workers, maybe there's something that you want to intervene there, that is where maybe you can give information to the situation according to the particular setup at that particular moment. Teaching means assisting learners to gain knowledge in a subject matter by directing learning processes, giving information, evaluating and assessing the outcome. It is passing knowledge with intent of helping one to understand a given object. Thus, it is passing knowledge with intent of helping one to understand a given subject, thus imparting knowledge, skills, and attitudes to the learners. There is another term here called befriending. Befriending is a role which is more readily understood by callers and which is more attractive to people who may feel socially isolated and unable to approach people they already know about their problems. A substitute friend has a more powerful appeal in these circumstances than a counselor. The usefulness of befriending to counter social isolation of specific groups of people is a shared goal thereby all providers of this service. So there is that which we call befriending. Giving active help. Two parties involved in finding a solution by providing tangible support such as giving knowledge and life skills. This refers to personal involvement in assisting an individual either emotionally or physically or materially or spiritually. And we have already talked on advice giving. We have said that counselors do not normally give advice. Advice is generally thought of as an opinion given or offered as future action. It usually entails giving someone information about the choices open to them and then from a position of greater expertise or authority, a recommendation as to the best course of action. The advisor not only may interpret the information in order to sort it to the needs of the inquirer, but may also offer an opinion about the wisdom of obtaining a solution in a particular way. So the reasons for not giving advice, as we said, is that very often people do not want advice. They want to be listened to and be understood instead. The advice given may be wrong advice. People seldom take advice, especially when they find it is not right for them. If advice turns out to be wrong, then a person who has accepted it can abdicate personal responsibility. After all, it wasn't the idea. Clients in counseling need to realize and utilize their own abilities. Equality is vital in a counseling relationship. If advice is given by the counselor, the role of expert is reinforced and equality is demanded. No two people have exactly the same experiences in life, so any advice given is bound to say more about the advisor than it does about the person receiving it. So it is very dangerous to give people advice, because at times you give them advice based on where you come from or based on what had worked for you previously, but it may not necessarily be a good advice that can work to this particular client or to this particular situation. Giving advice can be offensive and intrusive, especially when the person is being advised is emotionally upset and vulnerable. Advice tends to address the superficial aspects of problem. The deeper issues are often bypassed or ignored. So giving advice is one way of communication. In counseling, the client should be actively involved in the whole process. Advice seldom helps clients to change because they depend on the clients. We say that there are several definitions that we are looking at, and I want us also to look at definitions of guidance. Guidance has several different meanings. Some examples include: 1. Guidance is a helping activity that mainly includes information, advising, directing, and instructing. Behavior change is not direct objective, but it is supposed to help individuals deal with normal life situations. Usually, it does not involve intimate relationships. Number 2, guidance is a continuous process concerned with determining and providing for developmental needs for all pupils. Mostly, we give guidance to pupils, and actually when they are doing maybe career choices. Guidance is a term referring to a broad area of educational activities and services aimed at assisting individuals in making and carrying out adequate plans and achieving satisfactory adjustment in life. Guidance is a process that helps the individuals recognize and use their inner resources, set goals, make plans, and work through problems in a healthy manner. Hence, guidance is the process of helping individuals understand, appreciate, and accept the world around. It is a continuous process aimed at helping individuals try to avoid problems, and if they occur, to cope with them or manage the problems situation in a healthy manner. So, with that, I want us to say that counseling is a helping practice that involves a counselor, and we say that there are qualities or attitudes that a counselor is supposed to have. So I want us to look at attitudes or qualities of an effective counselor. And I want to begin by saying that people form attitudes about others from cultural influence or traditions based on where you come from, your culture, where you were raised up. There are attitudes that you form there because of the traditions that you, as you were developing, you were introduced into, or the cultures that you were told that this is this and this is that, this is that. It's like when you are growing up in a place and you find yourself as a boy, you are told that men don't do this, men don't do that, men don't go to this place, and you developed up in such a culture or a tradition, and that has an influence in you. We say that people form attitudes about others even from experience with certain people. When you have walked along in life with certain group of people or a certain elite group, every time you find that you tend to think, to reason, and to behave like that kind of group that you had an experience with. We also form attitudes about others from newspapers, magazines, radio, from the social media, and also from our attitudes. Our attitudes toward people influence how we behave towards them. If we think kind, we behave kindly. And if we think unkindly, we behave unkindly. So how you think about people also influences your attitude. Point to note, counselors are expected to be helpful towards clients, therefore, they must form appropriate attitude towards people in general and towards those seeking help in particular. When people come to you for an assistance or for this helping practice, you don't look at them as people who are beaten up. You don't become judgmental to them that the problem they are facing in life is simply because of their making, but you try to build positive attitudes towards them. So attitude refers to a habitual way of thinking and looking at persons and things, as well as a manner of holding the body. Our attitudes towards people influences our behavior towards them. The following are attitudes an effective counselor should have to facilitate trust and will help clients move towards constructive changes. So one, respect. The attitude emerges from the counselor's belief that human beings are worthy and that there is something sacred about them, that there is the image of God in them. So every time you look at men and you give them respect in a view that they have something divinely, something sacred from them, and that is the image of God. And respect also means acceptance of clients as he is or she is, and appreciation as a person. You appreciate a person the way they are. Because the counselor respects the client, he or she has faith in his or her potential for personal growth and solving his or her problems. Respect also implies that the counselor recognizes the counselee's freedom and her right to make her own decisions. Number two, genuineness or congruent. Genuineness or congruent. The goal of counseling is helping in constructive changes in the client, enable him or her become more genuine or authentic. When one is genuine, he should be consistent in these levels. Genuineness in the counselor means honesty with oneself and with the client. You don't come up with superficial stories when dealing with clients, but you become genuine. Genuineness must be constructive. The counselor must be aware of all his feelings towards clients, e.g., attractiveness, anger, hatred, jealousy. And if you as a client, you still have some unfinished businesses in your life, you need to deal with those unfinished businesses in your life before you come to the client, because at times you may find yourself projecting this unfinished business towards the client. These feelings, which may be negative or positive, should not be communicated to the client if they are not helpful to the client. The third attitude that we look at is empathy. Empathy. Empathy is not sympathy. Sympathy is when you sympathize with the client. But in counseling, you don't sympathize with the client. You employ this skill we call empathy. Empathy is the ability of the counselor to accurately understand what another person is undergoing and communicate that understanding. This is when you have looked at the client on their behaviors, because they are observable behaviors, verbal and non-verbal. You look at them when they talk and you hear what they are saying, and you believe and you trust that you have understood what they are saying. So you tell them that I believe, I have understood, according to what you have said, I see that this and that is what is going through. Is it true? So when they find that you really understood them, then this is what we call empathy. The empathic counselor will understand the client's frame of mind and context and how she feels and why. The counselor will be free from the overwhelming experiences of the client. Put yourself in the client's place. Imagine how he or she feels and why. The counselor should be objective, not subjective, so that he can help the client. You need to be very objective. Empathy includes correct understanding of client's feelings, ability to communicate this understanding. What are the qualities of a good counselor? Discuss them. I want you to discuss honesty, discuss trustworthy, responsible, etc. What makes a good counselor? What makes a good helper? The personality of the counselor is the most important factor in counseling. However, education and training are likely to influence growth and competence. As a counselor, you need to keep on learning, you need to keep on improving. Every time there comes new skills year in and year out. So you need to be a man and a woman who keeps on learning and going to supervisions and going to seminars and going to counseling sessions and going to group counseling. You don't just sit there and wait for people. You need also to keep on improving. Let's look at counselor qualities. 1. Self-knowledge. Know what I am doing, which problems are mine and which are the client's. So a client should be self-knowledgeable. You should be able to identify what are your issues and what are the issues of the client. And in this, you need to look at blind spots in self-perception. Blind spots are the things that are in you and you don't know them. Blind spots in self-perception can cause blind spots in the counselor's whole perception. So every time, try to identify your blind spots, the areas that you need help, you need improvement, and improve on it. Go for it. Acquired skills in self-knowledge are the same ones used to know others. You need to acquire skills on yourself. Know yourself. Understand yourself better. Understand yourself well. And if there are things that need to be improved, go for personal development. So in this self-knowledge, you say that you can teach self-acquired skills to others. Self-knowledge permits me to feel and communicate compassion, being in touch with my own strengths and weaknesses. You need to know your weaknesses. You need to know your strength. You need to know the opportunities around you. You need to know what you need to do on how you need to improve. If you are someone who talks a lot, you need to improve on that, because many clients come to you simply because they have found somebody who they have not found anyone who can listen to them. They don't need anybody to talk. They need you to be there. So you need to improve on yourself. The second thing that we are going to discuss here is about competence. Competence must possess the physical, intellectual, emotional, social, and moral qualities necessary to be helpful. So here, in competency, you find that my role is to teach these competencies so others can live more happily and effectively. Competency generates confidence the client has in me, and that taking risk is possible. Specific goals and concrete methods must be made. Continually increase my knowledge, seek new life experiences to develop new skills, try new ideas and approaches, evaluate my own effectiveness. The third quality that we're going to look at is good psychological health. Counselors are models of behavior. You need you need to lead by example. People need to see what you are telling them. Don't be like the hypocrites in the Bible or the Pharisees whom we are told that they were telling people to do as I said and not do as I do. So you need to have a good psychological health. Here, you have to we have what we call needs affirmed and met. You affirm the needs and you meet them, keeping my life out of the counseling session, aware of personal biases and weak spots, living life happily. The third quality is trustworthiness. Trustworthiness is not being a threat to the client. Here is where you need to be trustworthy to the client. An essential goal to encourage people to reveal their innermost selves. When you are trustworthy, people will be able to open up their lives to you. But when they feel that there is a point of untrustworthiness here, the client will not open up. Confidentiality helps the client tell more and helps them develop a deeper sense of trust in themselves. When the client comes to you and they know that once they tell you something or once they open up in the session, they will not find or they will not hear their issues out there. They develop what we call confidentiality. And this confidentiality is something also that needs to be affirmed to the client. And breaking confidentiality is a criminal activity, so bad that you can be unaweza ukanyang'anywa your license. So when a client comes to you, a counselor, you keep the client's information, you safeguard it no matter what, unless there are instances where you can be allowed to break that confidentiality, especially when it's life-threatening. But under no circumstances are you supposed to break the confidentiality of the client. So reliability and consistency, no surprises, and don't be moody. When you are with the client, no matter the situation that they have come with it, you need to be reliable and consistent with them. Verbally and non-verbally assure the person that confidentiality is absolute. When you are with the client and they are talking, you just look at the non-verbal communication. You see the way they behave, they speak this way and their body language speaks another way. You need to be there to them to assure that person that confidentiality is absolute. Never make a person regret having made a revelation. I listen non-judgmental. So when they come there, you give them full authority. When they are speaking, you just give them full attention. By listening much, you'll be able to understand some things that is going on in the life of a client. So here is where you convey that I am responsible in an ethical and professional way. And the other skill that I want us to look at here is honesty. Honesty is being genuine. You give unvarnished feedback to the person in return. The client is honest. Convey both positive and negative honesty. And where you feel that you are not able to handle that client, you refer. or where you feel that the issue that has been brought to the session is not supposed to be in the counseling, maybe it's medically, you refer them appropriately. And in refer, you don't call the person or the point where you are referring this client and you tell them somebody is coming there and they have this issue and that and that. Just refer that person and let the person go and explain themselves on the other side. I want us also to look at strength. Here is have the courage to do what my deepest self says is helpful. Look at your weaknesses, the strength. Here, I will need strength to withstand the psychological assaults and manipulations of the client. When the client comes to the session, at times they give you their issues that they are going through, and at times you may, if you are not careful, you may find yourself getting into their issues. So it may give you a psychological assault and manipulations. So we say that strength is contagious. You need to have that strength to withstand every psychological assault that the client brings into the session. Set reasonable limits and adhere to them. Limits are a must. Explain length, number of sessions, availability, etc. That is, you talk to them, you tell them when you will be available. You also want to understand the availability of the client, when the client will be available. You need also to set boundaries, set limits, tell them that you cannot go by past this time. If the client has come there and maybe they are under influence of drugs, you let them know that I cannot be able to handle you when you are under influence. Until when you are sober up is when you can talk, is when you can sit down and have a session together. You set reasonable limits and you adhere to them. Maybe someone who is facing relationship issues and they have come there and maybe they, according to them, at the back of their mind, they think that you can come there, so that maybe they come there so that you can be an alternative. Make them understand that this is a helping session and you are helping them to help themselves. It is them, the client who has come to you, they have the problem and they also have the solutions. It's only that they don't know how to come up with the solution. So yours is just to help that client to brainstorm and to come up with the solution. So the other skill here is empathy that we said. You see the world as the client sees it. You become warmth. Warmth melts defenses. Invite sharing on an emotional level. When people receive warmth, it allows them to be warm to themselves and others. It is non-threatening, in touch with one's own humanity. Then we have active responsiveness. Active responsiveness. This is midpoint between being hyperactive to the point of distraction. Communicate personal caring. Active responsiveness is where you communicate personal caring. Clients needs new ideas. So you purpose that I will relate with and not to. I will relate with and not to, and I'm willing to share equal responsibility. Then practice something we call patience. It's another skill, letting the situation happen naturally. Be tolerating some ambiguity. The point is not so much where the person goes, but how or she gets there. Then we have sensitivity. I'll be aware of the subtle dynamics and vulnerabilities present both in the client and in myself. This communicates safety and sensibleness. So every time you find that there is a time when you find that the counselor, especially a counselor who is beginning to do counseling, there are pitfalls that at times they end up falling into. Beginning counselors' pitfalls are like trying to do too much too soon, teaching instead of relating. In counseling, you need to relate and not teaching. So you find that at times you are teaching instead of relating, being overly accommodating. When the client comes, you are all over, you are overly accommodating, attributing counseling problems to inexperience, assuming a counseling personality. Just be yourself, be genuine. Don't assume the counseling personality. Reflecting after the session. What if you ask yourself, what if I could have said this? What if the client could have done this or that? So you find those pitfalls comes to the life of counseling, a counselor who is in the beginning. So we say that we have those we are calling counseling skills, and counseling skills are the basic tools by which you operationalize strategies and fulfill the aim of each stage of the counseling process, according to Kali 1991. These are tools. Counseling skills are tools which you operationalize strategies and fulfill the aim of each stage. We say that it is a stage where you move from one level to another, or it's a process where you move towards a particular goal, and in those goals, in order to get there, there are skills that will enable you as a counselor to get there. Counselor skills are those techniques that enable the counselor to help the client explore their issues, understand and decide on a goal of action. So these are skills that or techniques that enable the counselor to help the client explore their issues, understand, and to decide on a goal of action, on how to get towards the, the goal of what they brought in the first place to the session. And I want to say that a counselor is not someone who goes around and seeing people having problems and you tell them, come to the sessions, come, I'm a counselor, come, I want to counsel you. A client is the one who needs to identify that they have a problem, they have an issue, and they come to the counselor for redress. When they come to the counselor, that is now where you begin from together between, we say that is a relationship between the client and the counselor. It is not where you go around and you find boys taking drugs and you tell them, come to counseling, come, I counsel you. No. Even if you find people with problems and issues, maybe they don't know or they don't understand. According to them, they have no problem. Until that point where they find that they need a redress and they come seeking for you, that is where you begin with them. I've heard of places where they take someone, people see someone as having problem and they bring them or they marshal them up. Others they arrest them and they take them to a counselor and you are told, I want you to deal with this person. You are not dealing with them. You are relating. So counseling skills involves receiving and sending information. They have to be learned and practiced for one to be proficient in them. Strategies are procedures used on being clear about what you are intending to do at each stage of counseling. E.g., exploration is one of the strategies of the beginning stage. Where would you explore? This helps in getting a clear and mutual understanding of the meaning and significance of clients' concerns. Skillful exploration will lead clients having greater self-knowledge and to change. So here we have attending skills. Attending skills are very, very effective. They are very key to counseling because this is now where you interact with the client one-on-one and you see them, you deal with them. This is when you are now in the session. So attending skills refers to attention a counselor gives to the client or the quality of the counselor's presence. It could also mean giving undivided attention or paying attention to another person. Attending skills is when you are relating with a person in the counseling room, you are there, both of you, and these are the skills that you show this person that you understand them, that you care for them, and you also communicate the same to them and you listen to them. Aims of attending skills. One, to establish a working relationship. To establish a working relationship. This is achieved by the counselor continually offering the other conditions of respect, genuineness, empathy, so as to create a trusting relationship. We say that aims of attending skills, one is establish a working relationship, and number two, clarify and define the problem. Both you and your client need to know as clearly as possible what the issues and concerns you are addressing. You will seek to establish how they view themselves and their problems, e.g., what they believe and feel. When they come there, you need also to know how do they believe, what do they believe about it, and how do they feel about themselves, what they experience and who else is involved. Clarify what concerns them. Clarifying and defining continuous throughout the counseling work. This will help you make informed or assessment and to facilitate contracting. How do you know that someone is giving you full attention in a conversation? How will you know that somebody is giving you full attention? So I want us to look at these attending skills. Attending skills are social skills, attending physical and psychologically, observing skills, and listening skills. So let's look at social skills. We say that attending skills are, like, we have social skills, we have attending physically and psychologically, and observing skills and listening skills. So I want us to look at number one, social skills. Social skills are greeting skills. How are you, for example, somebody comes to the session and you tell them, how are you, Joshua? Good morning. And maybe you can add something else, and you may start by saying, my name is so and so. And then you use their name and a firm handshake, acknowledging other people and what they want to say. So when people come to you, you don't just sit there, you tell them, speak quickly, tell me what, say haraka haraka, ongea haraka haraka, what I brought you here, what is it that you want us to do? Just be social to them, greet them, show them, just affirm their coming. Hata saa zingine unawa encourage, thank you so much for coming here, for finding time to be here. It is good to have you. How have been your place? How was the journey? How was the how have you been since last time we met? You see, when you give them these skills, or when you talk to them this way, they feel that somebody is valuing them and they feel that I'm in the right place. So unajaribu ku ground break. We also here have politeness skills. You tell them welcome. They are an expression of one's sensitivity to the feelings and opinion of others, of one's gratitude to others. Brainstorm other examples on how you can have these politeness skills when someone comes to you. Welcome. You may take a seat. You just make them feel that they are in the right place. We also have kindness skills. Please sit down. This expresses of one's good wishes for others and readiness to do something for others. Kindness is like sunshine on a cold day. You tell them, I wish you well. What are the results of using social skills? They facilitate deep interpersonal interaction. Deep interpersonal interaction is the opening up possible. We communicate genuine interest or acceptance to the client by the counselor. It generates trust between client and counselor. How to develop social skills? Be aware of them and their importance even in general relationships. Practice them daily. You need to practice them daily. You need to be aware of them. and their importance. And number 2, let's look at attending physically and psychologically. This is the quality of our presence show through our nonverbal communication. We communicate nonverbally more with our body language than with words. When you are with the client in the counseling room, there's the way you communicate without speaking, and the client looks and they understand at times on what you are saying. For example, the client will be talking and you are looking all over, you are looking here, you are looking there. You are telling this client that I am not interested in whatever you are saying, and you are boring. Or you are yawning when the client is speaking, and you are keeping on yawning and yawning. The client may think that there is something that is going on, or this counselor is not active with me, or maybe I am boring. The client may be speaking, and when you look at them, maybe they are talking about something that is very serious, but they are happy about it when they are talking. So you, as a client, as a counselor, you will be able to identify the nonverbal communication here, and you will be able to say that this, I think, is not genuine of whatever they are saying. So 80% of our communication is verbal, while 20% is also verbal. I want us to look at the solar model. The solar model, when I talk of solar, is SOLER, which you can write in an acrostic way, and each letter you give it a meaning. So S stands for squarely. You face the client squarely. Adopt a posture that indicates involvement. You sit upright. You sit squarely on the chair. You don't lean on the chair. When you lean on the chair, it means that maybe you are showing this client that you are bossy, or you are not interested. And when you keep, unaona wakati umeketi alafu umeketi in a way kwa kiti umejiwekelea mkono, client anaona kama wewe unakaa bosi, unajiona kama wewe ni important sana kumuliko. So you face the client squarely. Then O is open posture. You don't cross your hands, you don't cross your legs when you are talking with the client. Hiyo inaitwa open posture. Wakati unakaa tu open, umeweka tu mikono yako, uko ready. Hata mikono yako unaweza ukaonyesha vile unaongea na yeye. You communicate openness and availability when you sit, when you are with this client na umeweka open posture, una communicate na yeye na unamwonyesha ya kwamba you are available for them. They can say whatever they want to say, you are there for them. Then L is lean forward or lean towards the client sometimes. You be flexible mentally and bodily. Avoid leaning too far forward. Client may interpret this as an invasion of personal space. Hapa, this is when the client is speaking something and maybe you find that the voice is not clear, so you try to lean forward to get clearly what they were saying, or to get the right information, or to get the message. When the client is speaking, and at times they may say something and then you find the voice is coming almost to a stop, you try to catch the information. So you lean forward a little bit, and you don't make it a practice that you keep on leaning forward like this. No. Then E is eye contact. You maintain an eye contact without staring. This communicates interest. You are not staring at them, but you are maintaining an eye contact. So we have said E is eye contact. Eye contact, you don't gaze at the client. Au mkondolei macho, lakini una maintain to eye contact. When you maintain eye contact to a client, he sees that, or he interprets, or she interprets that you are listening, you are getting what they are saying, you are together, you are with him or with her. But when the client is speaking and you're just gazing at them, they feel uncomfortable. People feel uncomfortable when you're just looking at them like this. You are just opening your eyes wide, you are gazing at them. Watu hawapendi kuangaliwa sana macho, tunaangalia tu macho hivi wakati anaongea, like you are interrogating them, like you are finding some ungenuineness on them. No, you just maintain an eye contact, you look at them, you show them that you understand, you see them from the top, from the head downwards, you just maintain your eyes there. You don't look here and there, you don't look at them straight at the eyes like you are gazing at them, but you're just maintaining that contact. You are looking at them from top, you are seeing them, and they feel also comfortable. Then we have R, relax. Relax. It is their problem. It is not your problem. You don't need to be so much involved and you feel that in you. Not forgetting or engaging in distracting facial expression. Use your body as a vehicle of personal contact and expression without slumbering or slouching. Relax. Then we have the counselor's body. Be aware as a counselor what messages your body is sending to your client. We have appropriate facial expressions. Appropriate facial. As a counselor, what messages your body is sending to your client. We talked of appropriate facial expressions. A friendly, relaxed facial expression. A smile demonstrates interest. Smile will be inappropriate if client is agitated or crying. Counselor's facial expression needs to mirror the client's communication. Then we have head nods. Use of head nods. This is when the client is speaking, maybe you are nodding up and down, showing that it is true what they are saying. Each head nod is seen as a reward to the client, showing that the counselor is showing attention. You are giving them. Head nods do not necessarily say that you as a counselor agree with everything the client says, but rather that you are interested. Aware of one's body. As you attend and listen to clients, your body could tense up. Ask yourself what could be happening. Could it be that what the client is saying or not saying, doing or not doing is affecting you? Then we have psychological receptiveness. To be present to the client in the body, in thoughts, in senses, and emotions. This implies a measure of commitment. This implies a measure of commitment to the client. Then we have observation skills. Observation skills, this refers to the ability of the counselor to see and pick up nonverbal messages from the client. Purpose of observing is to understand how the client is feeling through the nonverbal data. This includes observing 5 levels. Observation is where you are just using your eyes. We say that a client has a very big ears, a very big eyes, and a very small mouth. A very big ears to hear a lot of things that the client is saying. A very big eyes to observe what the client is saying, and you try to connect what they say and how they behave. So there is a physical level of this is the level of energy, physical appearance like dressing, code, etc. When the person comes there, the way they are dressed, the dressing also communicates. Then we have emotional. Emotional is when we look at facial expressions, the posture that the client is. Maybe you've set your table, you have set your room for the client, and when the client comes there, they want to face, they are talking to you, but they are facing the other side. they are not facing you. Then you try to come to the other side where they are facing, then they turn again, or when they come there, they sit in a manner like they don't want you to get closer to them because maybe they feel there is something that they are smelling, or maybe it's the client that is smelling something. So emotionally, it's facial expressions, posture, the gestures, the tone of voice when they are speaking. You hear the tone of voice, the pauses when they are speaking and they are posing certain pauses, or even the silence. At times, a client can come to the room and they are not talking, they are total silence. So, how do we deal with silence? How do you deal with this? This can be at the beginning of a session or in the middle, or when the client is saying something and then they suddenly remember something and they went total silent. Then we have interpersonal or intrapersonal. Interpersonal is when someone is relating with others. Intrapersonal is when someone is relating with themselves. How the client relates to the counselor and how the counselor feels about self, feeling comfortable or uneasy. This is that kind of in a relationship where someone relates with themselves or someone relates with the others. How do you feel when relating with them? Then we have cognitively or intellectually. This is readiness to learn, is the alertness, interest, level of understanding, etc. Then we have the degree of congruence. Degree of congruence, not discrepancies between what you see and what you hear. Here is where you note discrepancies between what you see and what you hear. Maybe you are seeing something else and somebody and that person is speaking something else different. For example, someone is talking of how they were fighting and he's smiling and he's talking of fighting and they fought and somebody was injured or even someone died, but this person is saying this while laughing or while smiling. So you'll be able to say to see that maybe there's something that is not genuine about this conversation. As you note these discrepancies, be aware of your feelings, beware of your own feelings and reactions. If appropriate, reflect them, message back. You seem, yes, you reflect that message back to this person that you understand. You say them, or you talk to them, you tell them, you seem to be smiling when you are saying that somebody came and slapped you. So, could you tell me more? What is this thing that is making you to smile when you are beaten? So you communicate that message back, or you reflect the messages back. Results of observation. The counselor is able to understand the client's feelings better in that people communicate more accurately through non-verbal behaviors rather than verbally. When people look at you, we said last time that 80% of non-verbal communicates more than 20% of verbal. Results of observation. We say that counselor is able to understand the client's feelings better in the people because people communicate more accurately through non-verbal behaviors rather than verbally. If the above observations are well reflected, it will encourage exploration. It may help the counselor understand how client has been coping, and all the above will help the counselor develop an understanding of the client as a person and his or her world, the world of the counselor, of the client. And then we have listening. Listening skills is one of the basic needs of people. Is one of the basic needs of people is to be understood. When people come or when people are speaking or when they are facing situations or issues in life, they need to be understood. And in order for them to be understood, somebody needs to listen to them. Listening helps us to understand others. Being listened to makes people feel respected, it makes people feel valued, it makes people feel affirmed, it makes them feel loved, it makes them feel appreciated and understood. So it's like when someone comes to you and they are talking to you and you are not listening, you are looking on the other side, you are doing your things. These people feels that they are not understood, you are not listening to them. But when they come there and they are speaking and you are attentively listening to them, you are affirming them, you are you are looking at you are encouraging them to continue on. You make these people feel that I am in the right place and this person is here, is listening to me. Failure to listen comes out as indifference. If people feel that you do not care, they will either clam up, close, or stay superficial. A helper needs to be appropriately sensitive to their own thoughts and feelings in order to be sensitive to the thoughts and feelings of others. So when people come to you, you need to be appropriately sensitive to their own thoughts. Be sensitive to your own thoughts and feelings in order to be sensitive to the thoughts and feelings of those who have come to you. What is the difference between hearing and listening? Hearing is the ability to hear, the natural processes of perceiving around with the hearing organ, perceiving sound, natural processes of perceiving sound with the hearing organ. When you hear somebody speaking, there is music somewhere, you hear with your ear, that is now hearing. Listening is a psychological procedure involving interpreting and understanding the significance of the sensory experience. Psychological procedure involving interpreting and understanding the significance of the sensory experience. The listener chooses to listen and makes a deliberate attempt to pay attention to what the other person is saying. Listening is a process. So listening is the ability of the counselor to hear well and accurately all the verbal and non-verbal data presented by the client. So the definition of listening is the ability of the counselor to hear well and accurately all the verbal and non-verbal data presented by the client. It is like entering the other's world, understanding their experiences from their perspective, and then communicating this back to them. Then we have active listening. Active listening involves hearing and understanding the client's verbal messages. It also involves understanding the problem situation in terms of specific experiences, behaviors, and feelings. Observing and taking a mental note of the client's nonverbal behavior. This helps to identify the feelings that the client is going through. So listening, it's listening to the context, background, culture, school experiences, etc. And then we have the framework for listening. One is experiences. What clients experiences as happening to them, what others do or fail to do, what they say and do. Experiences is what clients experience as happening to them, and what others do or fail to do to them, and what they say and do. Then behavior is how clients act, what they say and do. Then we have feelings, what they feel about their behavior and experiences. Then we have thoughts, what clients understand about what they do or do not do, what sense they make of their own or others' behavior, and what beliefs they have about themselves, other people, and events in their lives. Some tips on good listening. Learn to pick out specific clients' experiences, behaviors, and feelings as they talk. When they talk, you learn to pick up specific experiences that they may show or behaviors and feelings. Then listen to any incongruences between the client's verbal and nonverbal messages. Suspend your own reactions to what the client is saying. It is not when the client is speaking and you are thinking on what to say. No, you just suspend your own reactions. Beware of distractions that may interfere with your listening. Beware of the possibility of your preoccupation with your responses to the client instead of listening to the client. Learn to listen to yourself, including your feelings, because then it will be easier for you to listen to others. Benefits of effective listening. This allows the client to feel understood, to feel cared for, as the counselor effectively communicates the conditions of acceptance, respect, empathy, and UPR, and conditional positive regard. It helps build a rapport and develop trust in the counselor, and therefore enhances exploration to release build-up feelings. It helps pinpoint the problem through this talking process. Active listening helps pinpoint the problem through this talking process. Barriers to listening. What are the barriers to listening? Is when you are anxious to speak. The client is talking and you are anxious to speak. When you think you know what the other person wants to say, you even complete sentences for the other person. This makes you sound inattentive and impatient. When someone is talking, we say that a counselor is someone who listens. You listen and you don't complete messages to the client. It is not when the client is saying something and you feel that they have taken so long to complete the sentence and you complete for them. No. When you do that, it's communicate that you are impatient with them. When you evaluate what is being said according to your evaluation of the speaker, when emotions are high or the atmosphere is tense, when attention is divided either between two people or on one person and something else, e.g. writing, the longer the person speaks, the harder it is to assimilate what has been said and to listen to what is being said. Others will find it difficult to listen to me when I ramble on and go off the subject, when I speak for too long and make too many points, when I become aggressive and dogmatic, when I exaggerate in my approach or in the facts, when I do not concentrate on my listener and only think about myself and my words, when I am not sure what I have to say and substitute with rhetoric that will make it difficult to listen, when that others will find it difficult to listen to you. And the last point, or the last thing that we are going to look at right now in this topic today is challenging as a skill. Challenging as a skill. Effective helpers are not only committed to understanding clients and their worlds, but also are reality testers. Effective helpers, you as a counselor, you are not only committed to understanding a client and their worlds, but also are reality testers. Clients need to be invited to challenge themselves to change. Therefore, challenge is central to helping. When you are with these people, when you are with your client, you need to challenge them. You challenge them to make that appropriate decision. There are clients that need to be challenged. If you don't challenge them, they won't take any appropriate measures in helping themselves. What is challenging as a skill? It is an invitation to critically examine internal and external behaviors. It is an invitation to critically examine internal and external behaviors that seems to be self-defeating and harmful with an aim of changing it. So Finn, 2005, stresses compassion and firmness, pointing out that at times we must say difficult things to clients in plain, non-judgmental language, which forces us to develop courage and wisdom. So at times when the client comes to you, at times you say difficult things to them in plain, non-judgmental language, which forces us to develop courage and wisdom. Why do we challenge? When the subjective reality of the client needs to be tested, when the client is only using a fraction of their potential. When someone comes there and you find that they are using just a fraction of their potential to do what they ought to do, you challenge them to make to come up with a goal, or you challenge them to take an action. What are the goals of challenging? You invite clients to challenge themselves to change ways of thinking, expressing emotions, and both reacting and acting that keep them stuck in problem situations and prevent them from identifying and developing opportunities. Become partners with your clients in helping them challenge themselves to find possibilities in their problems, to discover unused resources, both internal and external, and then to invest these resources in their lives so as to have possibilities of a better future. You ensure they commit themselves to take action needed to make it happen. When a client comes to you, for example, and they come and say that I am hungry and I've been hungry for the last 3 days, I've not eaten anything, you don't rush to the kitchen to cook food for them and you bring to them on the table. You challenge them, you tell them now that you have been hungry for all that time. What do you think you should do in order to eat? What do you ought to have done? When a client comes with a problem and you become a substitute of helping that client, then you are creating dependence to this person. You challenge them to do something. You ask them, what do you think you can do in order to get this? They say, I think if I can do this and that, or if I would have gone to this person, or if I have done this, then you ask them, what do you think you need to do? And how soon do you think you can do that? How are you going to get there? Let them make that decision. You challenge them on themselves, but you don't rush and help them solve that problem that they have. You don't solve that problem for them. You help clients identify and replace unproductive thinking and behaving with productive thinking and behaving. How do we help clients to challenge themselves? One, develop new perspectives. If challenging is successful, clients are helped to replace blind spots with new perspectives. In other words, the helper is helping the client to see the big picture, spell out implications, see things in context, develop different angles. Linking new perspective to constructive behaviors change. Challenging is only helpful to the degree that it helps clients translate new perspectives into constructive actions. Help clients challenge and change self-limiting internal and external behavior. For example, a client may come and say, blah, 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 they all misunderstand me. In fact, I think they all hate me, and I feel so frustrated when I am expected to work with them on that project. The counselor may say, when you say all, do you mean to say that there is no one in your department that understands you? No one you can confide with? So you challenge the client to come up or to clarify what they were saying. We challenge dysfunctional mindsets and perspectives. This helps clients transform their outmoded, self-limiting mindsets and perspective into self-liberating and self-enhancing new perspectives, e.g., stereotyping others, cultural norms that are outdated. Self-limiting internal actions invite clients to challenge and change self-limiting and self-defeating internal behaviors. Challenge clients to state their problem as solvable. Challenge them to describe the problem that they have, that those problems can be solved. The attitude towards the past can be changed even though the past cannot be changed. So we need be to use these skills to challenge them. And I want us to, as we wind up these sessions, I want us to look at the goals of counseling. Goals of counseling. There are 5 major goals, namely facilitating behavior change, improving the client's ability to establish and maintain relationships, improving the client's ability to establish and maintain relationships, enhancing the client's effectiveness and ability to cope, promoting the decision-making process, and facilitating client potential and development. These goals are, however, not mutually exclusive, naturally be more often emphasized by some theorists than others. So let's just define them and then we call it a day. Let's look at enhancing coping skills. We will inevitably run into difficulties in the process of growing up. Most of us do not completely achieve all of our developmental tasks, and all the unique expectations and requirements imposed on us by significant others will eventually lead to problems. Inconsistency on the part of the significant others may result in children learning behavior patterns that are inefficient, ineffective, or both. However, learned coping patterns may not always work as new interpersonal or occupational role demands may create, and demands may create an overload and produce excessive anxiety and difficulty for the individual. So when we are developing up, there are stages that each individual needs to go through, and at times you may find that you there is a stage that either you bypassed or there is a stage that you overdid things. So this you find that at times as you grow up, they come up to be a learned experience that were missing in your life, and therefore they need some redress. Facilitating behavior change, we say, is another goal. So most theorists indicate that the goal of counseling is to bring about change in behavior which will enable the client to be more productive while the client defines their life within society's limitations. This definition of behavior will vary greatly among theorists. According to Rogers 1961, behavior change is a necessary result of the counseling process. Although specific behaviors receive little or no emphasis during the counseling process. So at times they come there and they need to change their behaviors based on what they think or based on their thought patterns. Because at times we behave because of our levels of interactions or our thought patterns, what we think is good and what we think is not good. So certain theories such as Rogers 1961 say that behavior change is a result of the counseling process, and that at times people can change their behavior. So behavior is learned and can be unlearned or learned. Then promoting decision making. The goal of counseling is to enable the individual to make critical decisions but not to decide which decisions the client should make or to choose alternatively courses of action. Counseling will help individuals obtain information and clarify and resolve personal characteristics and emotional concerns that may interfere with or be related to the decisions involved. So decision making or promoting decision making is where the counselor or the professional, the helper, helps the client to see the other point of view in life and to make their own decisions on what they feel that it is most appropriate to them to do. So they make their own decisions. Then improving relationships. Many clients tend to have a major problem relating to other people due to poor self-image, causing them to act defensively in relationships. Or it may be the result of inadequate social skills. Typically, difficulties will be family and marital problems to the peer group interaction difficulties of the elementary school child. The counselor will then strive to help the client improve the quality of their lives by becoming more effective in their interpersonal relationships. So here in improving relationships, here is where the counselor will help this client to relate well with others. And finally, facilitating client potential. Counseling seeks to maximize an individual's freedom with the limitation of the client's environment, and then to seek the individual's effectiveness by giving him or her control over this environment and the responses within that, that era evoked by the environment. Counselors with us work to help people learn how to overcome, for example, excessive smoking or drinking, and to better take care of their bodies and overcome shyness, stress, and depression. Counselors will also assist in overcoming sexual dysfunctions, drug addictions, compulsive gambling, obesity, and fears and anxieties. They can also help with interpersonal problems, emotional problems, and with the development of learning and decision-making skills. This is where you help this person to maximize an individual's freedom with the limitations of the client's environment. You look at them, you enable them to brainstorm the environment and to see what, or to interpret what they think is freedom and what real freedom is, and then to make the decision based on the environment that they are in order, for them not to, maybe this client is facing some social issues in life because of the peer pressure of the group that they are working with. So you help them to make their own decision and to make a personal responsibility of themselves. So that is what we were looking at today. So, and this makes us to come to an end of this counseling, introduction to counseling and the counseling skills. There are a lot of skills that a counselor needs to employ, but for today, those are what we just had to look at, and then next time we will continue from there. Thank you so much.